You're listening to the podcast and archive of Blue Plz. You can listen in live on Sundays at 17:30 GMT. That's 12:30 Eastern Standard Time with a lively musical pre-show kicking off 1 hour beforehand. If you like WOW Radio's productions, then make sure to dig our shows at dig.com and check out our website at www.wcradio.com.
Dark were the skies and chill was the wind as the land was covered in a veil of malice. Across the hill did ride a dread army of the night, cloaked in mist and fog, prepared to rain down death and destruction upon the land. And the people did cry out for a saviour, a noble soul to save them from their impending demise. Just as it seemed all was lost, in strode a mighty hero, clad in shivering metal from head to toe. Wielding a terrible broadsword, he did cleave his foes in two, smashing their ranks asunder with righteous fury. And when the day was done and the enemy strewn across the fields in pieces, the people did turn to the warrior and say, "We shall name this day in your honor. Speak unto us your wisdom." The warrior said one word that day: epic.
One man, one Murloc, one giant angry badger. This is Blue Plz. It begins now. Yes, indeed, folks. You're tuning in to Blue Plz here on WOW Radio. And myself, TotalBiscuit. Welcome to the show. And what a show I do have for you today. Good Lord, you have no idea. You absolutely have no idea what I'm about to throw at you. It's great. I've been keeping the secret for ages, and it's awesome. And I'm finally going to unveil it today. No, I'm not gay. Don't even say it. I will not accept that kind of dribble in my channel. There is none more manly than metal or Blue Plz with TotalBiscuit, and welcome to the show if you've just tuned in. If you've just tuned in, fortunately, you've only missed 55 seconds of complete drivel. You've got another hour and a half of that to come, so sit down, relax, chill out, and get ready. Coming up on the show today, we have, of course, the one and only, and you should know this one by now.
Second Wind!
Yes, Second Wind. What's the next big thing in raiding, we asked you last week, and this week we'll hopefully find out your answers. If you want to get in a quick Second Wind, you can do so, themurloc@gmail.com, while I'm still droning on about nothing in particular. What's the next big thing going to be in raiding? As well as PvP versus PvE Season 2 gear. We've seen it, or at least I hope we've seen it, and some of it is, well, not as good as others, and some of it is now ridiculous. The issues of separation as regards to gear itemization coming up later on the show, and as well, craftable epics. Crafting in general, crafting pre-TBC, post-TBC, and keeping the balance. Is it even possible to keep a nice balance between PvE, raiding, PvP, and craftable gear? Is it possible? Can it be done? And of course, a Second Wind coming up later in the show, as well as Nubcake News, as well as Rap in the Forums, and, of course, the one and only big announcement. Now, a slightly smaller announcement, I will not be doing the show next week. I do apologise, I'm going to be on a plane, which makes doing the show a little bit difficult. There will, in fact, be I believe they're calling it Red, White and Blue Plz. It'll be a random show. I have no idea what they're going to do. Absolutely no idea whatsoever. All I know is they will be counting down the auction for my legendary signed hat, as well as a few other silly things. I don't know what they're going to do. It's either going to be a tribute show or 1.5 hours of insults. Either way, I have no doubt whatsoever that it's going to be hilarious. So I'd suggest you tune into that. As I say, I will not be doing the show next week. I will be on a plane. I am going to America land, and I'm not coming back for a while. Indeed. It is true. It is true. What you have heard, I am going to the US of A. Right, okay. Let's get on with this, shall we? Second Wind. What did I just say?
Second Wind!
Yes, Second Wind indeed. So, I asked you last week, what is the next big thing in raiding going to be? What is it? Do you have any idea whatsoever? Let's find out if you do. Let's go to the email right now. I was discussing last week the idea that Black Temple was not, in fact, the Nax Ramus. By any stretch of the imagination. The Nax Ramus of the Burning Crusade. It isn't. At least not in my opinion. I suggested that it perhaps was the Blackwing Lair of the Burning Crusade. Well, let's see what you guys thought. We have plenty of emails on this particular topic, and you can get a few more in if you wish, themurloc@gmail.com, but be quick about it. This section will not last much longer. Okay, alright, let's start. Let's keep going. Let's get on with the second wind. Alright, Steven Sorensen, also known as Tier, level 70 human priest, Dragonblight US, says this. Anyone who thinks that BC is over just because Black Temple has been beaten is showing sheer stupidity, in fact. Sheer stupidity. Blizzard won't let WoW die like that. These people probably thought that Ragnaros' death marked the end of WoW too. I would definitely like to see a Grim Batol or Maelstrom instance, however, if Uldum is anything like Uldaman, it can stay closed forever. If this is the end of the Burning Crusade, then they can always release a new expansion, the Northrend Crusade. Keep up the great show, TP. That's from Tier, level 70 human priest on Dragonblight US. Yeah. As I said last week, the likelihood of a Grim Batol instance or anything like that is, in my opinion, pretty damn high. It's there. As far as I can see, it's a good possibility. I don't honestly see any reason whatsoever at all why this wouldn't be the case. Alright, let's have a look at the other stuff, shall we? Down we go. Let's find another second win. Second win, Black Temple. This is from Andrew Beersley, also as Uber Nuba. He says this. As far as progression goes in Burning Crusade, I think Black Temple is far from the Nax Ramus. Even with talk of new expansions, I think that there is still a lot of life in Burning Crusade and that we will have a lot more to see from it. Black Temple just being the start. There are a lot of possible options lore-wise for raid instances, and I think that Blizzard will try and bring the game back to Azeroth. Burning Crusade so far has been based very much around Outland, but I think that the game will head back into the old world again, preparing it for an arrival of an expansion. However, at the moment, I think the main focus will be on Archimonde. Right, well, obviously we can kind of throw the Archimonde thing out the window because Archimonde's already been beaten, as people are probably well aware. Nihilum downed Archimonde shortly after they killed Illidan. The only reason apparently that they hadn't killed him in the first place was because they couldn't be bothered with the instance and there's too much trash. Right, Tornak, level 70 rogue on Homer Rush, says this. Let me first introduce myself. I hit the MMO scene about 2 years ago when I started playing Guild Wars. There was very little endgame content other than PvP, and I came to WoW. Recently I hit endgame content as I dinged 70, and I'm really enjoying the content. Personally, I'd like to see a zone with large groups, 10 to 25 man quests with quests that give epic items. Right, okay. Epic item quests. Not a bad idea, by any stretch of the imagination. I think that that is a really, really good idea indeed. However, instance content has always been the way of things, and we know that. You know, raid instances have been there and will continue to be there, as far as I'm concerned, for a very long time indeed. It's a tried, true, and tested method of delivering endgame content in such a way as to not be disturbed by other players. That's vitally important as far as I'm concerned. It really is. It's one of the big selling points that WoW was based on to begin with. This is true. This is one of the big selling points. This is, if you go and look at the description of WoW even to begin with, instancing was a selling point. No two ways about it. Instancing hadn't been done before then. So yeah. Alright, let's have a look at what else we've got as regards to second wind. Hi, Chris here. Anyway, regards to the Black Temple as the end rubbish, what about Killjoy Dan, Illidan's boss? What about Deathwing? What about Medivh? What about Sargeras? Yeah, good question. From a lore perspective, it's not as if we've run out of big things to kill. Let's face it. There are many things. Many, many things indeed that could be got rid of. We haven't heard anything about Killjoy Dan or anything about Sargeras or anything about Deathwing as of yet. We haven't heard if there's even any plans to implement them into the game, but if you go by what Blizzard have been doing, and that's the idea of putting the big characters in the game in order to have them killed off in a spectacular fashion, then it wouldn't surprise me if Blizzard did continue along those lines. Killjoy Dan, Sargeras, big nasty Eredar, as we're aware, Deathwing, Nefarian on crack. Acceptable. as far as I'm concerned, very much acceptable. Now, what else have we got? Second win from Carda, also known as Zeroni, level 70 Pony Spec Rogue. He says this: one of the things I have hinted at several times in rumours is the possibility of opening up the Emerald Dream as new territory to explore. Granted, only druids are supposed to be able to access the Emerald Dream, but let's face it, there's 4 portals around Azeroth that lead into the place. With all the different story threads and hints at the issues going on in there, Welling Caverns and Malfurion Stormrage being prime examples, it wouldn't surprise me if Blizzard makes this into either a major content patch or perhaps even a full expansion, the Emerald Nightmare perhaps. The lore geeks would scream bloody murder, but then again, when haven't they? After all, we've seen that Blizzard isn't shy about letting the players kill off the biggest iconic characters in the Warcraft universe. Why not open up Dreamland to everyone so we can see just how original and possibly quite weird Blizzard can get? Apologies for all the parenthesis, and all hail Amicus Alliance on Hayal US. Not a bad idea, to be quite honest. The Emerald Dream is an interesting area as regards to endgame. I like comparing WoW to Oblivion for some reason, I don't know why, so let's compare it again and bring in the idea of the Shivering Isles, an expansion brought into Oblivion, which was very much an Emerald Dream kind of style place, where reality wasn't quite what it seemed, and it was, in some cases, just downright bizarre. It's a decent piece of subject matter. There's no two ways about that. Whether or not just having it as an instance would be acceptable is a different matter entirely. To be honest, I would expect the Emerald Dream to be a completely new zone with perhaps instanced areas breaking off of it. A kind of giant Scarlet Monastery kind of thing for endgamers. Yeah, I would say that that is certainly a possibility. It's one of the most interesting areas, and it certainly hasn't been explored yet as of WoW. Worth having a look at, I would think, very much so. Jamie Sperry says this: I think this may be one of the second to last instances of Burning Crusade, maybe the AQ40. If Blizzard announce another expansion of BlizzCon and try to stick to their one expansion a year model, then there may be one more expansion left in the Burning Crusade, perhaps 2, I assume by expansion means instance. However, in terms of lore, I think this may be the Nax of the Burning Crusade, because they may wish to use someone big as a selling point of the next expansion, as Illidan was for the Burning Crusade. That is actually also a good point. Illidan very much is an iconic character of the Burning Crusade. He has been for a very long time. He was, as you're well aware, featured in the teaser trailers. He was all over the posters and the standees. He was very much a part of the advertising campaign, a very big part of the advertising campaign. Having him killed off so soon in the Burning Crusade's life cycle is something that has concerned people, and is in fact one of the reasons why I brought up the second win topic in the first place. It does worry people that this has happened. And I am not massively surprised, to be honest, that they are concerned about this. They do have a right. Illidan is a very major character. Now, from a lore geek's perspective, Nefarian, Ragnaros, and Cthulhu were also major characters. Hakar is a major character as well. Although, you've got to bear in mind that from the layman's look, the people who have played Warcraft 3 and are not necessarily massively into the lore, Kel'Thuzad was the biggie, and Kel'Thuzad was, of course, the end of Legacy raiding in WoW. And now, of course, we've got all of these characters, but you've got to then bear in mind that Blizzard has been less shy with introducing the big characters into WoW raiding and having them killed off before the end. Magtheridon being the prime example. Magtheridon, as you're of course well aware, is a relatively early 25-man raid instance, designed to be done after Gruul and before Serpent Shrine. Serpent Shrine, we've got all of these random bosses that you've never heard of, and then Lady Vash, and then Kael'thas is the same. Tempest Keep being all the way up to Kael'thas, all of these bosses which are effectively just being made up for the instance. This is definitely a strategy that Blizzard has been employing in increasing frequency as regards to endgame. They will have an instance, they will design an instance with all these new bosses that you've never really seen before and aren't really a part of the WoW lore, and then they will end it with an iconic character from the series. Now, Burning Crusade started with that in it. We've got Mount Hayal, which has Archimon, a massive character. We also, of course, have Kael'thas, we've got Lady Vash, and now we've had Illidan killed off as well. Now, the question, therefore, must remain: how many more characters can they bring in? Well, there are quite a few. Not entirely surprisingly, and of course they're all villains. We've got a case where everyone is killing off the big villains. It's something that I've actually complained about in the past, that there is no seeming, the morality structure of WoW itself is overly simplistic in the fact that the Horde and the Alliance aren't really good and evil. They're kind of two sides of the same coin, and PvE is of course evil, 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 bad, naughty, evil, bad. that's a little bit simplistic in my opinion, but I can see how that would at least allow them to expand into a few more dungeons with some relatively iconic boss characters before they start running out of people to kill. And of course, therein lies the problem. If they keep going on at this rate, we're going to run out of bad guys. Now, we've got some more. From what I heard, Black Temple is like the molten core of Burning Crusade. I think Zulaman could be the next of Burning Crusade. Also, do you think ratings should be 25 or 40? That's from Snorky Yorkie. I've got to disagree with that one, though. You can't really compare the molten core, because the molten core was within WoW when it began. It was the first raiding instance, and it was massively simplistic. Absolutely hugely simplistic in every single way. Anyone that goes back to molten core these days, and I refer you to, of course, Vendor Trash's rant on this particular subject, is very, very silly because it's a really boring instance and it doesn't really have massive ties to the lore. It's not all that interesting to play or to view from the perspective of someone who's played Warcraft 3. No one really cares about the bosses in there. It's certainly not a molten core. Zulaman, as we're well aware, is a 10-man instance, and to be fair, it would be easy to compare Zulaman to AQ20. We don't think that Zulaman is going to be all that difficult. I would imagine it will be a bit more difficult than Karazhan, in the same vein that AQ20 was, in some respects, more difficult than Zul'Gurub, if only for the fact that Zul'Gurub had been out longer and had been nerfed previously and therefore was more easy to actually do. The idea of Zulaman being a higher up instance doesn't sit well with me. It really doesn't. You would not take a instance full of random trolls with no real lore significance and then throw it up against Illidan, who is, a huge iconic character. I do not believe that Zulaman is going to be, the next instance along. Yes, it will be the next thing they release. That is pretty much undoubted. We know that because they've said it. They said it's in the pipeline. It is coming. If it's going to be the new Bleeding Edge content, no, I really wouldn't say so. I've got time for one more before the music break. I believe that this content patch was more of an MC of the Burning Crusade. There's another one for MC. I think the next content to be added would be Zulaman and Grim Batol, and there's a strong possibility that Arthas will be included in either a future content patch or in the next expansion. There is no way that something released several months after the Burning Crusade's release would be the last content patch included. They also have to go through Sargeras and Blackwing, and I assume Deathwing is what he means there, so there is no way that this is it. There's a lot more content to come, and only Blizzard knows what's next. Well, yes, indeed they do. In conclusion, it's quite obvious to see that there is very much a lot of the sky is falling, doom-saying stuff going on. Hey, Illidan got beaten so soon, therefore it's the end of World of Warcraft, and no, I very much don't believe that. And while there are plenty of iconic characters left, whether or not it was wise to throw Illidan into the firing line so soon, debatable. But we shall see. You're listening to Blue Plz here on WoW Radio with myself, TotalBiscuit. Time for some Street Fighter, Ryo's theme. Enjoy.
Avasti mateys! This message is brought to all UNC Raiders by Captain Dan and the Scurvy Crew. Check out our new album, Authentic Pirate Hip Hop, on iTunes and enjoy some of the hottest pirate rap on the high seas, featuring the 7 Seas. That track just makes me want to gank noobs out on Booty Bay and PvP. Also available from our debut album, Blackbeard's Treasure, featuring a video on www.knowyouwantit.com. If you love Booty Bay, love pirates, and love ganking useless shadow priests at low levels, then check out www.myspace.com/Captain Dan for the latest videos, songs, and orders from Captain Dan and his Scurvy Crew. Remember, the only way to increase your reputation with Captain Dan's faction is to plunder me CD, Authentic Pirate Hip Hop, on iTunes today. And now back to World of Warcraft Radio, you scurvy bildrats.
Okay. I said I was going to give a very special announcement. It's best that I don't say it, so let's just play it. See what you think of this. There are some who have faced every foe, conquered every adversary, defeated every challenge that is, except for each other.
You are not prepared.
For the first time in World of Warcraft history, 4 mighty guilds will face the ultimate test. WoW Radio proudly presents Nihilum, Death and Taxes, Forte, and Method in the show to end all endgame shows. Hear the world's best raiders taking on aspects of raiding past, present, and future, as well as each other, as the Bleeding Edge let their voices be heard. Coming soon only on WoW Radio, 4 guilds, 1 very special show, no compromise. Be there to witness the ultimate encounter, the 4 Horsemen.
It's not brain surgery, it's just a radio station. Although we do mess with your head from time to time. From Tanaris all the way to Nomragon, this is WoW Radio.
Did I not tell you I was hardcore? Yes, indeed, the 4 Horsemen, the biggest endgame event that World of Warcraft has ever seen. I kid you not. Nihilum, Death and Taxes, Forte, and Method. The same show. All there, discussing the state of endgame. Is that not somewhat epic? Yes, I did just say...
Epic.
Yes, they will all be on the same show, and it is planned at this point to air on June the 1st. That's a Sunday, June the 1st... sorry, that's not June the 1st, is it? I'm an idiot! July the 1st. July the 1st, straight after Blue Plz, and just before Octal and Hordak. The 4 Horsemen is coming soon to WoW Radio. And yes, our servers are going to get murdered by it, and we do not care because we have plans for that too, and maybe you'll see them a little bit later on today. That was not my only secret, but this one I'm not telling, you'll just have to see for yourselves. Right, you're listening to Blue Plz here on WoW Radio with myself, TotalBiscuit. I do hope, I really, really do hope that people aren't lagging so much at the moment. I really don't know why. If you are buffering, I must apologise, because I honestly have no idea whatsoever why that is happening. Not a clue, so I'm just going to have to plough on regardless, and the archive will be available after the show. Hell, I might even schedule a rerun for you by someone that doesn't have a connection filled with fail. Right. Let's get on with this, shall we? Now, PvP has always been something of a sticking point within the community. Very much a sticking point. Why? Well, there's millions and millions and millions of possible reasons for that. I mean, let's start with the fact that PvP was tacked on. We all know it was tacked on. Let's admit it was tacked on. Originally, WoW wasn't even designed to have PvP in it. It was a PvE game. Yeah? And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, by any stretch of the imagination. Nothing wrong at all. However, now we've got a case where PvP has made its way into the game. and is here to stay, and people are PvPers. Yeah? Now, to my knowledge, there is, of course, nothing wrong with that. I don't PvP all that much, although I am on a PvP server, so I don't mind ganking a little bit from time to time, nor do I mind engaging in this so-called world PvP, whatever that might be. I will go into an arena from time to time, I'll go into a battleground from time to time, I wear a couple of pieces of PvP gear, the shiny shoulders always look quite nice, and they've got really good stats. However, the problem we then have is we have two very, very distinct communities, and they both want equal rights, as regards to both content and gear. Tricky. Because, of course, you have to quantify the time and effort required. PvP, as you're well aware, can be done with a significantly smaller group of people. It can be done in such a way as to not require you to play for hours on end in any given time. You can invest the time in chunks, and you can be rewarded just as much as you would be had you played, say... Let's take an example. You're playing for an hour, yeah? And you are playing that hour in 4 15-minute chunks. Now, if you did that in PvE, you wouldn't get anywhere. Yeah? You wouldn't get anywhere whatsoever. You need to, obviously, sit down and spend some time with raiding. PvP, on the other hand, doesn't actually punish you. If you spend the time, you are pretty much going to win the same amount of points as you would have otherwise. The arena is probably the best example of that. Arenas, you can be rewarded with points by only playing 10 matches a week. You can, in fact, drive yourself up to a high point rating and then just sit there, doing 10 matches a week and keeping your rating high and reaping the rewards for it. You can also be the worst PvP team imaginable, and you will still get the rewards, one way or the other. Now, this contrasts rather sharply with PvE, in the sense that if you were to raid and you were the worst raiders of all time, you wouldn't even get past the first boss of whatever raid dungeon you happen to be entering. So, how is that resolved? Or is it at all? Well, let's go and have a look at some gear, shall we? Let's go and do a tier comparison. I am going to my favourite site. I love Wowhead. I think it's awesome. I really do. So I'm going there right now to have a look at a few things. Let's do a mage comparison. See, I play a mage. I've played a mage since day one, therefore I know a mage relatively well. So let's pull up the mage tier 4. Hey, Incanters is not the mage tier 4. Why on earth did I look at that? I am such a noob. Let's go and find the tier 4. Perhaps I'm singing. I don't know why. It's a good waste of time. La 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 la. And so forth, and all of that good stuff. Where is that tiered stuff? You see, this is quite embarrassing, because I don't actually have any tier 4. It's horrible, it really is. I have no tier 4 whatsoever. That is a very, very embarrassing thing. You don't really understand just how embarrassing that is. And I can't even remember the name of my set. Oh god. I cannot remember the name of my set, which is why I'm going to look at the boss itself and find the name of this set so I can actually do the comparisons for you. But load up Wowhead if you haven't already. Go and have a look. And you will, of course, find things like the gloves of the Fallen Champion, the gloves of the Fallen Defender, the gloves of the Fallen Hero. Look at the gloves of the Fallen Hero. There's a currency for gloves of the Aldor. And there we go, the Aldor Regalia. So I'm pulling those gloves up right now. Now, have a look at the Aldor Regalia. You will find that it is a relatively good piece of kit. 19 stamina, 22 intellect, 19 spirit, improves spell hit rating by 17, improves spell critical strike rating by 19, and 35 damage and healing. A solid piece of kit, one would think. So, let's bring ourselves up another Wowhead window and do the comparison right now. Wowhead.com, off you go. And we're going to go and have a look at some Gladiators gear. Gladiators, search for Gladiators, let's see what we can find. Gladiators cloth something over there. Let's go and find the gloves for the mage, specifically. Where are my gloves? I wish to have my gloves. They are hidden somewhere inside this damn Wowhead thing. I can't buy the gloves, can I? Of course I can't. How annoying. You see, I had all these links prepared, and it turns out the links have turned out to be completely and totally wrong, which is not helpful whatsoever. Fortunately, I have supposedly found what I am looking for. Or so I thought. That's actually the priest ones. This is absolute total fail, what can I say? Dreadweave, no, we don't want that. That's for Warlocks. Where is it? Ah! I am absolutely stunned. Absolutely stunned. It has disappeared off the face of the planet, and I cannot find it anywhere. How incredibly annoying that is. Anyway, let's try and continue on to actually make the point. Found the damn thing. There we go. Gladiator Silk Handguards. Right, here's the comparison for you. It's a 39 stamina, 14 intellect, 21 spell crit, 21 resilience, 5 improved yard range on your fire blast, and 32 damage and healing. So we pull that one up specifically, and let's do a comparison. Direct comparison between the two items and see whether or not they have actually managed to distinguish them enough. Right, Gloves of the Aldor. Okay, so let's do a direct comparison. Stamina-wise, Gloves of the Aldor misses out, obviously. PvP gear, heavy stamina. Understandable. Less intellect on PvP gear because, well, arguably PvP's not so much about mana, although some people would argue otherwise, has to be said. No spirit on Gladiator Silk Handguards. This should not really surprise anybody at all. Spirit is, of course, completely useless in a PvP environment, at least for a mage anyway. So let's keep going. Spell hit. There was 17 spell hit on the Gloves of the Aldor. There was no spell hit on the Gladiator Silk Handguards. As you're well aware, spell hit is not really a factor in PvP. At all, as it happens. It does not, as some people might believe, reduce resistances. What it does is it knocks down level-based resists, yeah? Now, level-based resists cease to be a factor in, of course, level 70 PvP, which is the only PvP that Blink and Well matters. So, of course, you don't have spell hit on that item. So let's continue down. We've got this special ability here, improves the range of your Fire Blast spell by 5 yards. Now, that is, of course, not remotely useful to you in PvE at all. You don't need that extra 5-yard range on Fire Blast. Most people aren't even using Fire Blast in their damage rotation, and of course there is a reason for that. It is completely and totally inefficient as regards to mana to damage ratio. You wouldn't use it unless you had a lot of spare mana knocking about or you wanted to kill something quickly. And we look at the damage, of course, and we've got damage and healing slightly higher on the Aldor. We also have 21 resilience, resilience being a new stat which directly reduces the effects of critical hits and the amount of damage that can be caused by them. Rather important in PvP, but not so much in PvE. Now, this is an incredibly good example of good balancing between these two items. You can look at these two items and you can clearly see that one is for PvE and one is for PvP. And one is acquired from PvP and one is acquired from PvE. We can even look at the set bonuses and kind of boggle a little bit. Gives you 100% chance to avoid interruption caused by damage while casting Fireball or Frostbolt. Now, spell pushback is not really something that's a massive issue in PvE, unless, of course, you've got a boss that is spitting out AoEs left, right, and centre. It's not really a massive issue. It's the kind of thing that will be more useful in PvP, because, well, mages and casters generally do complain about spell pushback. They really do. Especially Frostspec mages who have no real way to avoid it. They don't have a pushback reduction talent like Arcane and like Fire does. So, that's really great for Frost PvP, but that's not so good for PvE. Now, we go down again. Reduces the cooldown on Presence of Mind by 24 seconds, Blast Wave by 4 seconds, and on Ice Block by 40 seconds. 40 seconds. That is odd. Very odd indeed. Very odd. Presence of Mind, not something I would be using very often in PvE. An instant cast doesn't make much of a difference in a raid encounter. Blast Wave, again, something that I have been known to use in an AoE encounter, but primarily, it's a PvP ability. And Ice Block, which is, as far as I'm concerned, always going to be a PvP ability. I'm sorry, you can claim all you want about the idea of, well, ZoMD, I can do this. I can reduce my aggro and temporarily remove it for 10 seconds with Ice Block. Yeah, well, you shouldn't have pulled aggro in the first place, otherwise you're a really bad mage. Learn to play. So, yeah. That sucks. Now, if you look at the set bonuses for Gladiator Silk Handguards, you've got plus 35 resilience. Resilience, as we've already commented, is a PvP talent through and through. It was designed for that. And it's a very good PvP talent. It's very well designed. 4 set bonus reduces the cooldown of your Blink spell by 2 seconds. Again, very useful for PvP. Blink is, of course, especially against melee classes, very much the difference between life and death. Reducing the cooldown by that, and that is quite a significant amount, bearing in mind Blink's cooldown is only 15 minutes to begin with. That is significant. So, overall, stats-wise, that's cool. That's fine, yeah? Now, The problem starts to come into play when you have issues with melee gear. Now, I found a rather interesting thread on the European forums, which I'm going to post to the content monkey, and he shall post it in the channel. Those not in the channel, wcradio.com, click the IRC chat button at the top of the screen, irc.wow, irc.com, # or #wow radio. And the thread is called Justification for 97.7 DPS Arena Weapons. Yep. Season 2 has DPS arena weapons with, like, 97.7 DPS. Yeah? Now, a rogue by the name of Tell from Coalescence has commented that they are basically some of the best PvE weapons in the game. And they are a lot easier, much easier to acquire. Now, that is kind of a problem. The issues with, say, let's have a look at measures between PvP and PvE. There is a degree of distinction between the gear. It's quite a strong degree of distinction. It's a very solid degree of distinction. Stamina, armor, resilience, crit over hit, special abilities like extra range and cooldown reduction on PvP specific abilities and talents. Yeah, that's cool. The problem you then have, of course, is that a high DPS weapon is, in many essences, a high DPS weapon. Now, you can, of course, argue that certain weapons are better. Say, warrior PvP. Now, I don't know much about warriors, so I'm hoping that I don't screw this one up royally and embarrass myself for the world to see. High DPS warriors in PvE are not really so bothered about big hits and big crits. A Mortal Strike warrior in PvP, you're looking for a slow weapon that is good for MS. It's the reason that Arcanite Reaper was so awesome back in the day. It was an MS weapon, and MS weapons do continue to persist and exist in a PvP environment. Fury warriors, not so useful. Dual-wielding warriors, again, not so useful. The idea of a warrior in PvP is, the first challenge is to get in blinking melee range with somebody. Now, with all of the tricks available, you won't necessarily stay in melee range for a very long time. Therefore, one would imagine you would want to clonk them as hard as possible, not ping away at them. That's not the way it works. Now, again, of course, you run into problems here, because can you at all justify the idea of a PvP weapon being as good as a PvE weapon for PvE? That is the question I'm going to leave you with as I play No Cake News, and I would like your answers to themurloc@gmail.com. Have a look at the new gear, have a look at the Season 2 arena gear, go and have a look on MMO Champion and that kind of place. There will find you the information, and see whether or not you can justify it being as good as it is. That's my question for you. You're listening to Blue Plz here on WoW Radio with myself, TotalBiscuit. Time for a little bit of No Cake News. Enjoy. Nubcake News! Stop that. Welcome to this week's edition of Nubcake News. Coming up later in the program, a look at Rock and Roll Racing, the MMO. Actually, hang on a minute. That's a really good idea. Blizzard, you listening? Yeah? There is nothing better than isometric racing with missiles and badly synthesized 16-bit interpretations of overplayed metal tracks. Now get to it! But first, the end is indeed nigh, or at least that's what the vast majority would have you believe. WoW is about to be beaten, destroyed, dismantled, and recycled into badly painted rocking chairs for the lonely granddads of the gaming world. And who will do it, you ask? Well, the new kid on the block, the contender, World of Warhammer. Warhammer Online. It is claimed that this game is graphically superior, using forbidden technology known as newer game looks better than older game technique. The world governments are investigating this criminal strategy, but as of now, it looks like Mythic, developers of Warhammer Online, are free to continue with their nefarious schemes. Further accusations have been made that Warhammer Online has better PvP than Warcraft. When asked about their PvE content, Mythic developers are thought to have looked quizzically at each other before setting about the report with a large plank of wood with nails in it. However, all of this pales in comparison to the nail in the coffin to end all nails in the coffin. WoW is, it has been reported, in fact, for girly pansy ladyboys. Surprised by this accusation, No Cake News began its own investigation and came up with astonishing findings.
I am a warrior priest of Sigmar. I bring his will with righteous fury to the faces, kneecaps, and groins of the Empire's foes. I wield an unreasonably large hammer and wear naught for armor but bear furs, which I tore from the very back of a large and angry bear. Fear his wrath, praise Sigmar.
I am a paladin of the light. I bring justice to my foes with the light of Loon. I wield a fabulous sword chock full of delicious plus spell damage. I can throw my shield like a 10th-rate Captain America and hide, conquer my foes behind 10 feet of metal plating and an impenetrable magical barrier. I dislike direct confrontation, preferring instead to stun my opponents with my fabulously gorgeous bright purple armor.
I am an orc warrior of Juratar. I am making up for my demonically possessed Linkin Park emo phase by bringing understanding and freedom to the land. I throw myself into harm's way with comically small weaponry to protect my glorious allies, the flesh-eating sadistic backstabbing trolls, the giant walking steak factories, the rotting and ultimately treacherous corpses, and the Final Fantasy VII rejects with the big hair.
I am a black orc of the Goretooth clan. I have very little concern for anything that's smashing my opponent's face in any means necessary. I don't necessarily and honestly care if I'm protecting my allies at all. I just want them hogging all our fights. Now excuse me while I tear this elf's throat out and turn it into a makeshift mace.
I am a night elf hunter of Nordrassil. I commune with nature and use it to do my bidding. I am inexplicably incapable of fighting within an 8-yard radius of my person, but that's okay, because I have Snuggles the cat to protect me, with a small DPS increase and an angry snarl. When endangered, I can meld with the shadow, becoming invisible, although unable to move, breathe, or act in any way. I am a goblin squig herder. Squiggy, 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 squiggy.
A shocking report indeed. This reporter feels emasculated and will resume his role washing the dishes while his wife yells at him about the state of the carpet. This has been Nubcake News. Oh, I didn't dare it, leave me alone. Good night.
This is WoW Radio. The Weekend Report.
Do not say they heard us singing this out. Oh my god, Leo, you are so fired.
The Lore Keepers.
Let's start with the random lore questions, okay?
And Darren, will we ever be able to faction up with them? AKA, will they ever come out of where they're hiding and say hello?
WoW Things Considered.
Sir, I'm a reporter for WoW Things Considered. Can I get a moment of your time?
Flame, death, destruction.
Vendor Trash.
He said, hey, Static, we don't even know exactly what's wrong with you. You want to do a radio show on Fridays at 7? I was like, yeah, sure, guys, I'd love to do it. Let's call it Vendor Trash. What a stupid-ass name.
Max Speed.
What are warlocks famous for in PvP Speed? Are they famous for DPSing?
No.
What are they famous for, Max?
Blue Plz.
The reason there is such a difficulty disparity right now is that Blizzard has completely abandoned Legacy Raid content.
Octale and Hordak versus the world.
Hey, Hordak, you're looking kind of sluggish, man.
Yeah, I know. I gotta build up some more rage before we can get started.
On the cards.
You must believe in the heart of the cards. I met FDR.
Nobody cares, Grandpa.
And new for 2007, World of Theorycraft, Deus Ex Machinima, and The X. Many shows, left side, everyone, find out more at www.wcradio.com.
I am Octale.
I am Hordak.
You are the world.
And we have something to talk to you about.
We want to tell you about a CCG. No, the CCG, called The Spoils.
What's The Spoils, you ask? Well, I'll tell you now, and I'll punish you later for your insolent questioning.
The Spoils is a CCG produced by Tenacious Games, and in our combined 20 years of CCG experience, we've yet to find its equal.
Magic, technology, giant cat people, man-eating dragons, and of course, leet-speaking elves.
All of these things come together to form the ultimate tournament and just plain fun card game.
So ask about The Spoils in your local game store and visit www.thespoils.com to learn more about the latest and greatest card game on the market. Brought to us by Tenacious Games.
Yes, indeed, folks. The sounds of Fuzzneck with the Streets of Rage Retouch of the Boss remix from OCRemix.org. As you might be aware, I'll be playing a lot of OC Remix stuff for the next few weeks, and it will stay in the archive. Yes, indeed, so you get to listen to it. Check out OCRemix.com, or OCRemix.org, in fact. That might get you further. Right. Now, I left you with a question before the break, and that was, what do you think about the gap between PvP and PvE gear? Is it enough? Well, I had a few interesting replies, so let's try and address them right now before going on to a post made by Feline from Method on the forums, WoW Europe forums specifically, in the justification for 97.7 DPS arena weapons thread. Right. Patrick of Thrall on the US Alliance says this: as a strong PvE player with some PvP experience, I can say that I am a strong fan of the divider between gear and the two playstyles. I can admit that I am wearing some Gladiator's gear in Gruul's Lair, but the only reason for that is because I have yet received better gear than that in the dungeons. Though I like having that gear so easily, I would not want all the gear to be at one standard level. Having a divider helps increase the feel of success for your work and rewards your work in the area you've worked in. Yeah, that, to be fair, makes perfect sense. Let's see what else we've got from that. JV from Vash US, also known as Charles, says this: I went to the PTR and got 3 pieces of the Gladiators Season 2 gear, helm, shoulders and gloves, and then went to the Hall of Legends and received the boots that look like part of my set. I noticed my spell crit increased by about 8%, my healing about 100 more, 1k more mana, 2k more HP, 2k more armor, and about 50 more mana per 5. This is without the healing helmet chant from Thormar Revered. This is an upgrade in PvE and PvP in all ways. Also about 200 resilience gain. Now, I'm not entirely sure as to what class he's referring to there. One might assume that it may be Paladin if he's talking about the spell crit and healing. So, that is certainly a possibility. We've got something here from Laughing Jack, level 70 rogue, and he says, as a dagger rogue, there is only the arena offhand weapon and blade of the unrequited O from Winter Chill. So there is no alternative apart from the arena offhand for a dagger rogue in raids pre-Mount Hayal. That's an interesting one there. PvP weapon itemization. Christopher Longair says this: I think that the weaponization in PvP is better for PvE because you cannot stack stamina and resilience and range buffs as you might on class-specific items. The weapons simply aren't attractive without sufficient DPS to be amazing PvE weapons too. Okay, so something of a selection of different opinions on that particular matter. It's a very difficult question, and it's also a question that I do not really want to address too much because, well, let's face it, I don't play a PvP class specifically, and particularly a melee class that is reliant on weapons. I only care about stats as regards to plus spell damage enhancing the spells I already have. Now, the post made by Feline, who is Rogue from Method on the EU forums, is quite interesting, and it's very much anti this 97.7 DPS arena weapons thing, and she says, let's see, we've been for months and months into both SSC and Tempest Keep, and we've yet to see any upgrades drop for weapons we've gotten from Karazhan. 2x sword, I believe, and that is it. Yeah, we can get weapons from both PvE and PvP. Goody! You forget the whole point that you spend 100 times more time in PvE to get weapons, and even then it's not a guarantee that the weapon will drop, or that you will get it. PvPers have that guarantee that PvPers don't. The 97.7 DPS weapons are a slap in the face to PvEers, sorry to use an overused phrasing, but it fits. Even Black Temple weapons seem to like a minor upgrade to this. It would have been more fair if they had made arena weapons between 95 and 96 DPS. That's still very good, but there's at least a broad gap between those and, for example, Black Temple weapons. They should either nerf the DPS drastically or revamp the weapons so they're only useful in PvP, which will be a hard thing to do. Armor at least seems balanced. Weapons are not, especially not for weapon-dependent classes like rogues and warriors. And that pretty much sums up the problem I have right there. If you have a weapon-dependent class, it is somewhat difficult, to say the least, to balance a PvP and a PvE weapon. It's quite easy for mages and warlocks, yeah? Let's go back to the mages and warlocks argument, because again, this is what I know best, so it's a lot easier for me to do the comparison here. Let's have a look at the Gladiator's Warstaff. Gladiator's Warstaff, pulling that one up right now, and I will also pull up something of relative equivalency. Let's say the Staff of Infinite Mysteries. Let's go and have a look for that one. Staff of Infinite Mysteries, pull up your Wowhead windows to continue to look at this kind of thing with me. Staff of Infinite Mysteries. Now, let's compare these, shall we? Possibly not a fair comparison, but it's worth a shot. So, Gladiator's Warstaff. We're looking at a 48 stamina, 35 intellect weapon, and improves spell hit by 21, spell crit by 36, improves your resilience rating by 25, and 199 damage and healing. Compare this to the Staff of Infinite Mysteries. Staff of Infinite Mysteries has more stamina and more int. It has very slightly more spell hit, but no crit of any kind, and only 185 damage. Now, most people would argue that Staff of Infinite Mysteries is a Shadow Priest or Warlock staff, specifically Warlock, particularly high stamina, always a good thing for Warlocks, as we're well aware, not so useful for raiding mages who shouldn't be getting hit in the first place, while for certain encounters, like, say, Prince Malchazar, it does help to have a rather high amount of hit points. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to get it from your weapon. Now, the Warstaff has resilience on it. Again, PvP. The problem that I have with this Warstaff is that there is hit on it, yeah? Now, I've told you before that hit is not particularly useful at all in PvP. It really isn't. And if any of the theory crafters would like to prove me wrong, then by all means email themurloc@gmail.com. But as far as I can see, plus hit is not all that useful. It's level-based resists, and not resists based on the resists that you have on your gear, yeah? You've got minus resist gear. Minus resist gear used to exist. There's not an awful lot of it these days, to be quite honest, but it's called spell penetration. Minus resist gear, spell penetration. There's not a massive amount of it these days, but it does exist. Now that deals with resists from gear. Let me call them non-natural resists for a minute, yeah? Take, for example, you've got a Molten Giant, yeah? Or a Core Hound, yeah? Those mobs are level 71, 72 elites. 61, 62. What am I talking about, man? 61, 62 elites with the amazing 15-minute blink cooldown. Yeah. 61 to 62 elites. Yeah. Now, they naturally have somewhere between, if I remember correctly, 4 and 7% natural level-based resist. Something like that. I'm not much of a theory crafter, but if I recall, that is about it. And I seem to recall something level 63, if you were level 60, would have something like a 17% resist. Yep. Therefore, it was nice to stack plus hit gear and plus hit talents for that purpose. Now, what they also had, and this is the vital thing, is an innate fire resist. Yep. That entire instance was filled with it. There wasn't much of it necessarily, but take, for example, oh god, I can't remember what they're called. Part of the lava packs, the elementals in the lava packs, the earth elementals, have a high fire resist. Also, let me just pull it off the top of my head. Golemag and Magmadar particularly have high base fire resists, yeah? And those are non-natural resists, and that's what you can use stuff like Curse of Elements for, which is a removal of a numeric value of resist, and again, spell penetration. Very useful for that particular scenario. Yeah? Now, this is the issue. Why is plus hit on that staff? Why? Why is it there? I've seen many people go to raid with this weapon, and to be fair, I would probably do the same. As a mage, this weapon is significantly better for me than the Staff of Infinite Mysteries. Now, here's the thing. Staff-wise, there is absolutely no choice at that level of raiding. You would be insane not to get the Gladiator's War Staff. You can get the Gladiator's War Staff, and it is friggin' amazing. It's kick-ass. Now, of course, you could then argue, well, we could go with the Nethrazim Mindblade combination. Okay, fair enough. Let's take that example. The Nethrazim Mindblade. That is a one-hander. Specifically a one-handed weapon. It's a dagger. And it's got 18 stamina, 18 intellect, 23 spell crit, and 203 damage. Now, for a raiding mage, that is somewhat significantly better. Okay, I can accept that. So let's take the endgame example, yeah? The endgame PvP example, specifically Spellblade, the Gladiator's Spellblade. The Gladiator's Spellblade has 25 stamina, 17 intellect, 17 resilience, and 199 damage and healing. Now that is a PvP weapon. No one's going to argue otherwise. It's got no crit on it. It's got resilience, which is worthless for raiding. It's got higher stamina, slightly lower intellect, and slightly lower damage. That's fine. That is actually nicely balanced. From a mage perspective, from my perspective, from a perspective of someone who does quite a bit of PvE, that is nicely balanced. It is where it should be. Undoubtedly where it should be. At least as far as I'm concerned. Now, there's very much a discontinuity there between a staff and between a dagger, a one-hander, and a two-handed staff weapon. And that's only from a caster perspective. And we're not all that dependent, yet you can clearly see that the War Staff is a better weapon. It really is. It is a better weapon, and it's not difficult to acquire either. And therein lies the problem, of course. The people who are PvEing an awful lot are arguing that it is unfair for PvPers to be able to acquire such weapons, because they are a guaranteed acquirement. Guaranteed. As in, if you spend enough time, you will get that weapon guaranteed. The same could not be said of raiding items. Let's go back to the debacle with the Staff of the Shadow Flame. A nasty low drop rate, about 5% drop rate from Nefarian. People would build up their DKP, thousands and thousands, and it would never drop within like 2 years of raiding. I have never seen a Staff of the Shadow Flame drop, ever. I've seen one Niltharian's Tear. One. I've seen infinite numbers of Ashkandis, but never a Staff of the Shadow Flame. Ever. Yeah? And there is a prime example of the problems with the acquisition of gear through raiding. It's random. It is very much based on chance. Not only that, but after that chance has been fulfilled, you then have to go up against your other people who have perhaps more DKP than you, or in some bizarre situation actually outroll you, or the loot council favours somebody else. You may never see that weapon, and therein lies the point. You may never acquire that weapon. It is entirely feasible that that weapon cannot be acquired by you. Why? Because you may never see it. If you do see it, you may not get it. Why? DKP, loot rules, which are there for a perfectly valid reason, but then you look at stuff like, again, the War Staff, that is guaranteed. If you do your 10 arenas a week, you are guaranteed that weapon. And I will say that, you are guaranteed it. It doesn't matter the pacing that you get it, you are still guaranteed it at the end. And there's the big distinction. Now that distinction is fine when the distinction between PvE and PvP equipment is in place. So, stuff like the Spellblade versus the Nethrazim Mindblade. The distinction is in place. One is clearly a better PvE weapon than the other. However, of course, let's not just look for it from one side. Let's turn it around. Let's twist it around, play with it, and have a look at it from the other perspective. What about for a PvPer's perspective? Now, I can look at the Nethrazim Mind Blade, and I can argue that if I were building a crit build, specifically, someone mentioned in the channel that they PvP'd with a Scorch crit build, and they had a 43% crit chance. Now, Nethrazim Mind Blade has almost, just one crit rating below, 1% crit at level 70. Yeah? The Spellblade has no crit at all, yet it has a little bit more stamina, and it's got some resilience, but less damage. It is quite feasible to argue that the Nethrazim Mind Blade is a better weapon for PvE and PvP alike. Yeah? It's great for both. And herein lies the problem. We've got the PvP community who are saying, well, this isn't fair because we can't acquire this stuff. We've then got the PvE community saying, this isn't fair because, yeah, we've got access to this stuff, but it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to get it, and yet your stuff is better, and you're guaranteed the acquisition. It becomes more and more apparent with the Season 2 weaponry that, again, going back to the 97.7 DPS argument, weapon-dependent classes acquiring that gear that is as good, near enough, as Black Temple level gear. But they're guaranteed to get it. They are guaranteed to get it. And I say that, they are guaranteed to get it. As long as they play their 10 arenas a week, and as long as they keep plugging away at it, they will eventually get it. Whereas that Black Temple weapon may never drop, and if it does, that person may not get it. And therein lies a horrific problem. Right there. Huge problem. How do we fix it? How do we fix it? It's difficult. I am not going to dispute that. Good Lord in heaven, it is a difficult situation Blizzard has dug itself into. It's also a case of course, certain classes are easier to distinct PvE and PvP roles from others. It is a lot easier to distinguish PvE and PvP roles on, say, a mage and a priest, specifically, healing class is very easy, than it is on a warrior and a rogue. That is, of course, a fault of the game design. That is going to be there, and that needs to be worked around. How do you fix it? Well, as far as I can see, and I believe I mentioned this in a previous show, the only way to do it is to bring in more stuff like resilience. Bring in more stats that are specifically useful for PvE and PvP. Bring in equipment bonuses. Bring in set bonuses that are PvP orientated. We have seen the gloves have these special abilities, yeah? They each have a passive special ability. Why can't weapons? Of course, they could. But they don't. At least not now. That's something I'd definitely like to see. Any more opinions on this? Email themurloc@gmail.com. Very much a hot topic on the forums right now. I'm going to play some Final Fantasy VII Jazz. I kid you not. This is by Loud. This is Final Fantasy VII Fighting 7 out of 8 Jazz Spiritual OC Remix. Enjoy.
Reaching up into the heavens, threatening to snatch the very stars from the great city of Midgard. When it's time for this planet to die, you'll understand that you know absolutely nothing.
Okay, that's quite enough of that. No, you're still getting it. I'm sorry, I can't let you escape. Yo, 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 phone shizzle and so forth. It's time for yet another edition of the one and only Rapping the Forums. Sadly, people have asked for it live again. Why? Someone explain to me why anyone would like this kind of thing. I don't understand. I'm going to do it once more for you, and that is it. Honest. Ugh. Seriously, I swear. You people are going to be the death of me. Post it in the forum. It's called Warhammer the WoW Killer. Oh, God. Whistle 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4. Warhammer the WoW Killer. Better quest, better PvP. No more grinding. Quick, we need a PvE care. Better priester as well as say AP. So you can do the quest. That requires you to kill another 10 of the other faction's players. Or you can do one of seldom berry digging collection quests spent throughout the Outland. Tough choice there. WoW equals winning a Warhammer. We've heard it enough already. This is a new and original topic. Someone out there cares, I promise. Yeah. Make sure to eat all your cereal, okay? Did you get enough sleep last night? You know your little kids need to get a full night's rest to make you cranky, whiny little posts. But no one cares about Warhammer has not been played yet by anyone on the forum. Therefore, there is no proof that it is actually better. Plus, it's made by EA. This is a new and original topic. Well, I'll tell you, this thing kills me. Well, honestly, yeah, it may well have been played by the paid marketing astroturfers who make these posters, not by the blind followers. Also, EA sucks and the MMO, they touch withers and dies. You realise that the game hasn't even been released yet, and most of that has been said by the developers. So, of course, they're going to say the game is better than WoW. It's all about hype. If you want a different opinion, check out all the MMORPG games that always released before Warhammer. Hard to say, but I hope War gives them some competition when MMOs compete the gamer wins. And right, now, there is no one who can touch WoW, so then they'll make an error and bill 80,000 of their customers, but forget to activate the credit and lock them out of the game all week, and they just don't give a beep. They don't have to. I make an angry post or two, but I'm not gonna quit. The posters who say they will quit, ... and a dot won't either. Blizz has no competition, so they don't have to run a tight ship. Hell, they don't even have to any work weekends. Actually, some of us have been playing the game this week, and yes, it far surpasses WoW. Now go along and farm your moats while you make out with the other faction. That's the people said about the same thing about Vanguard. Why don't you look up and see what happened to that MMO? Maybe you are too uneducated on this to do research. QFT, listen, if it takes players off Famintals, so I don't have to wait in the 600-person queues on Sunday nights. If I lose connection for some reason, I'm happy. Personally, I prefer the more cartoony-style graphic of WoW. I'll try Warhammer, but I doubt I'll leave WoW for it. Now make an online game of Warhammer 40k. That'd be an MMORPG I drop WoW for. I stopped reading here. I see what I did there. OMG Nerdhammer will kill WoW, and I care why. It's not like WoW is really gonna die and be shut down. People still play EverQuest, and years from now, people still playing WoW. I'll reserve judgment until the game actually comes out, so I don't have Indian cheese. After spending the last 2 years hyping a game that may end up being pretty shitty, speaking of which, do you think EQ2 got threads on the forums? Like, WoW is the EQ2 killer. Well, the OP was an obnoxious ass. I agree and disagree. There will be some like me who have been playing this game for so long and are just sick and tired of all the crap Blitz keeps creating feed us. So yes, I will be playing War, but in no way will it kill WoW. It will only reduce the numbers. P.S. The fanboys in this place are hilarious. This chart is retired. Anyone that posts that Warhammer is an EA game is sorely mistaken and doesn't have the facts straight. EA bought Mythic, while Warhammer was already more than halfway done, with both the Greenskin Dwarf pairing and the Order Chaos pairing completed, and most of the game well finished out. Also, anyone that pairs says that these posters are paid AstroTurf as a horror conspiracy theorist, because it assumes that there are people who are not fed up with WoW in its current state, which even the most jaded WoW player will admit he's heard complaints from somewhere. Also, the course beta is live right now and doesn't need many players. And since WoW has over 8 million subscribers, it's foolish to think they are not a single one of this beta at the moment, and less foolish, but still foolish nonetheless, to think that they aren't posting that they are in and their opinion so far, which is all they can really say about it, thanks to an NDA.
Computer enhanced, digitally mastered, and completely downloadable. It's the really hyperactive and totally interactive WoW Radio. WCRadio.com.
The pain and suffering. I am never doing that again. Absolutely not doing that again. No matter how much you beg me with your hundreds and hundreds of evil emails, you have no concern for my life. Arr! Yeah, leave it to Captain Dan, please, for the love of God. You're listening to Blue Plz here on WoW Radio with myself, TotalBiscuit. I have 14 minutes left of this show. No, actually, that's incorrect. 13 minutes of the show, which is just enough time for... Second wind! Yes, again. The end of the show is always second wind. It allows continuity. We love the continuity. Nobody hates the continuity. Everybody loves the continuity between show to show, going from topic to topic. It's quite hypnotic. I've got to fall sideways. Breathing. Possibly not passing out now. Right. Second wind topic for, of course, this week will be something a little bit interesting. Now, over the past 2 days, I've been playing quite a lot of WoW. This is always a good thing, of course. I haven't been playing a lot much since my guild collapsed, but I thought, let me follow my own advice. There always has to be something ahead of you in order for you to attempt to get there. So I set myself a challenge. I set myself a goal. I thought, okay, fine, I can't raid. So let me go by my preaching that there is casual content in this game. It is here and ready to be played. So, let's go do the casual content. So, I start doing daily quests. Okay, they're cool. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. And I thought, well, this is okay, but I'm going to get bored of this eventually by just doing this again. So, let's set myself a bigger challenge. Let me improve my character. I've always said that WoW is about character progression. So, let me progress my character by dropping herbalism. Yes, dropping herbalism. 375 herbalism down the tube. All gone and disappeared. Now, what have I got? Tailoring. Sitting now at 355 tailoring after 2 days of work on it. Expensive hobby. I will tell them that. My God, is it an expensive hobby, but I am getting there. And what's the aim? Well, the aim is, of course, for me to acquire Spellfire. Because Spellfire is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I was even going to try and cover it in today's show, but I've done way too much on PvP today, so it'll be next show's topic, no doubt, will involve Spellfire and crafting balance. However, I'm making my Spellfire because, let's face it, it's kind of fun. I like going through all of the tailoring quests and doing all of this stuff, and then discovering, of course, the 2 Angered Nether Raids come out and kill me when I attempt to do that quest. So, of course, I went into Area 52 and did it next to an Ogre Bruiser, who did a very good job of beating the living snot out of said Nether Wraith for me, and I nabbed the loot. Lol. Right. Now, that brings me on to the next point. And the point of this week's second wind. And that is this. I've been using the auction house quite a lot, as you may have imagined. I've been using it to sell all of the enchanting material that I'm getting from disenchanting all of this cool stuff that I'm making with tailoring. I've also been using it to acquire vast amounts of cloth and the reagents that I need to advance my tailoring further. because I don't really like grinding cloth. I think it is made entirely of fail. And while I did go and do it down in Tanaris for a little while with the mage weave, and I went and AoE dead mines a few times for wool, it is made of fail. So I just buy it. Now, here's the issue. The auction house is, of course, the place that I have been acquiring all of these items from. Now, it occurs to me that the auction house is actually really rubbish. Yeah? Really rubbish. Why is it rubbish? Have a look at how eBay works. Yeah? eBay manages to maintain a stable economic market with a value on particular items that tends to be quite similar. Let me prove my point, shall I? Let's go to ebay.com. Now let's look for a game. Let's say look for, I don't know, Gears of War on the 360. Gears of War. Let's go on eBay and look for Gears of War. And let's have a look at the values of Gears of War. Okay? Gears of War. Here we go. Right. Gears of War. We're looking at bidding values of around $25. Huh? That's bidding values of around $25 pre-owned, yeah? And brand new, you're looking at between about 35 and 37. Yeah? That's not too bad. That is not too bad at all. In the sense that the prices are quite similar. They are quite similar. Now, go and have a look on your average auction house and see the ridiculous prices of legacy enchanting materials. For instance, Greater Nether Essence. Something I had been selling because I'd been getting quite a lot of it from disenchanting rune cloth stuff. It's getting me a lot of Nether Essence, so I said, right, okay, let's go and do this. Now, when I put these on the market, Greater Nether Essence were worth 15 gold each. 30 minutes later, they were worth 2 gold each. Why? Therein lies the problem. Why? Why are they worth this much? Now, where does eBay succeed in results of keeping a relatively stable market for a given product? How does it manage? Because, well, it's relatively similar. You know, you can set up buyout prices and all this cool stuff, and it can set times. Why does it manage to keep a maintainable market value for an item, whereas WoW doesn't? Well, there's a vast number of reasons. Yeah? For instance, you don't go out and farm Gears of War. You don't go out and farm multiple copies of Gears of War in order to sell. Now, if you, of course, were to flood the market with Gears, yeah, and there wasn't so much of a demand for it, the price naturally will collapse. Yeah, the bottom falls out of the market. And, of course, you can go the other way round. If there is a high demand but no supply, then the price goes up. Yeah? Now, Gears of War is, of course, readily available. It is a real-world product that is available in every store. Now, how do we compare that to stuff like Greater Nether Essence, for instance? Greater Nether Essence is readily available in the sense that if people go out of their way to create it, they will get it. Huh? So you need to disenchant something in order to get Greater Nether. Now, here's the problem. Of course, Greater Nether Essence being a legacy enchanting material, people seem to have forgotten what things are worth. Now, with eBay, you will generally find that that doesn't happen. People don't forget what things are worth. You know, the value will gradually decline as the game gets older and older, and possibly spike up again if it ever gets rare. You know, the supply and demand thing. But what you will find is that specifically, eBay has one thing which allows people to maintain the value of a certain product. Bidding. People have in their minds an idea of what things are worth. They will bid up to a certain amount. And what you'll generally find is that groups of people have a similar idea as to what things are worth, and they will bid up, and by the time an auction ends, you'll find the auction will end at around the same value as the last one did. This copy of Gears of War will sell for about the same cost as the last copy of Gears of War, and so on and so forth. Now, with stuff like Greater Nether Essence, stuff like that on the AH, consumable stuff, what you will find is that the demand very much changes, very, very rapidly. Not only that, but it's based entirely on buyout. Buyout. Bidding is there, but the system sucks. I mean, it is horrible. Why is it horrible? Well, to start with, if you get outbid, you have to run back to an auction house in order to make a bid. For anyone that's not a mage, that is a pain. It's even a pain for me as a mage. I don't want to do that. I don't want to interrupt my grind in order to go and place another bid. I can't do it remotely. I can't proxy bid. I can't set it so that, like on eBay, I could bid £2 for an item, but my maximum bid is 10. Therefore, it will bid all the way up to 10 until someone bids more than 10. I don't have to touch it. That if that's the maximum I'm willing to pay and someone goes higher, then I have to make the manual decision to bid more. In WoW, that's not the case. You have no way of proxy bidding. You have no way of making easy bids. You have to go back to the auction house. And no wonder people don't want bidding. If buyout is there, and again, buyout doesn't cost you anything. On eBay, buyout costs you something, yeah? It is an optional feature. I don't always have it. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. I prefer to leave it to bid and see what people make of it. In World of Warcraft, in the auction house, that's not how it works. You can buy something out even if it's already been bid on. That doesn't happen in eBay. And once you've bid on something which has a buyout value, that's it. The buyout disappears, you can't buy it out. And there are so many other features that make eBay a better auction place than the WoW auction house. Now, of course, you're going to say, well, why are you even making this comparison? Because, of course, eBay is a professional auction site. Well, the problem with the auction house is that the auction house very much regulates the way the economy works. It regulates values. Now, the auction house can be easily fixed as regards to the values being manipulated. And by fixed, I don't mean fixed as in this is now broken and I'm fixing it. I mean fixing a value. Something along the lines of a cartel, price fixing, can be done using the auction house. And some will argue that, of course, this is a gameplay feature. Others will argue that it is not helpful. If you want a decent economy in WoW, that's not going to work. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave you with that very, very small amount of information on the auction house, and I'm going to let you draw your own conclusions. Over the next 2 weeks, yes, you have 2 weeks for this one, because of course there will not be a Blue Plz next week. 2 weeks, I want you to redesign the auction house from the ground up. Identify the problems. If you think you have any grasp of economics, then by all means bring economics into the equation, because this is all about economics. It's all about gameplay mechanics and economics, and how the impact of economics can impact gameplay, and how, blah, blah. It's very synergistic. They both impact each other quite violently at times. How do you fix it? Email themurloc@gmail.com. You've got 2 weeks to do this. Email themurloc@gmail.com, and I want you to fix the auction house. I have 2 minutes left for shoutouts before Octail and Hordak versus the world. And that is exactly what I am going to do right now. Shoutouts to me, themurloc@gmail.com, themurloc@gmail.com. Go right now. You know you want to. Email themurloc@gmail.com or PM me on IRC. You've got about 1.5 minutes to get your shoutouts to me. Again, I must remind you, the Four Horsemen event. Nihilum, Forte, Death and Taxes, and Method on the same show. Roundtable debate between the gods of endgame raiding. Coming soon, July the 1st. Only on WoW Radio. Look for more information on WCRadio.com. Right, shout-outs going out to all the Horde and Steamwheel Cartel EU, especially Org Mothgrum for getting her Defiler Tabard, and Druge and Autumn Rain for being great Blood Elves and some Snorky Orky level 63 Orc Warrior. Let's have a look at this about shout-outs. Yo, I'd like to give a shout-out to Steamwheel Cartel and the RPers, and TotalBiscuit, I'd totally be your Murloc wife. Okay, I'm really scared of you right now. Monty Wart, the Pimp and Gnome. That is foul and horrible. Shout out to me for being a pirate, Yars from Uber Nuber. Varnic on Nagrandi, you want to shout. Can I get a shout to my brother Elfwing for getting me a time card? That is from Zephyric. Shout out to Farming, Epic Flying Mounts. Aren't worth it, but I'm doing it anyway. Yeah, those things are like flying carpets with wings. What's your email? Can't get it right. themurloc@gmail.com. themurloc@gmail.com. That is my email. The rest of Novus, a shout out to them as well from Varnic. A shout out to my druid, which dinged 41 yesterday. It's from Baffage on Balnazar EU. Before the widespread use of vaccine against measles, what are you on about, you nutters? A shout out to my homeboys at Pound or Hash Rogue, Pew Pew Ba 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 Ba. I am charging your laser at Emo Slanic. That's from Shu. Shu is a very frightening thing. A shout out to all the players of Eternal Blood that joined the McTheridan raid yesterday. Good job getting him to 50%. Sorry I couldn't be there, but we'll get him soon. A shout out to my sister for turning 21 years old today, and a shout out to UTB. Good luck in the US. LOL. That is from Kazi. Can have a shout out to me because I only have 2 GCSE exams left. That's from Corrupt Drama and Food Tech for the win because they are a DOS. I am about done, folks. I'm gonna go die in a corner. I say no Blue Plz next week. There will be some kind of tribute / promo / insult show. It'll be awesome. Keep an eye out on the front page on the next few days. My hat will be going for auction. All proceeds going to WOW Radio. I've been TotalBiscuit. This has been Blue Plz. Thank you for listening, and good night. You've been listening to the podcast and archive of Blue Plz, one of World of Warcraft's longest-running podcasts and shows. You can check out all the shows at wcradio.com. Be sure to dig us at dig.com if you like what we're doing, and rate us on iTunes. You can, in fact, download all of our other shows at wcradio.com. Click the downloads button at the top.